Now, we did a video prior that defined the word individual. Now, the Canadian Law Dictionary has been sanitized. The new edition has removed, and a kind brother of mine, Todd, out in British Columbia, provided me a new edition. We both have a copy of, but we found out that there was things taken out of it that are different from the original version that we were looking at earlier. So when you go to the word individual in the current, it doesn't read the same as the definitions that occurred in the previous edition. So when I'm quoting out of the third and I believe the fourth, I think we're at a fifth edition now of the Canadian Law Dictionary, but the third and the fourth, interestingly, defined individual as not a member of a family, and we're using the term family in the Roman civil sense, which has nothing to do with what you believe as to do with blood or any relationship that way. It has to do with basically tagging or title of how you'd be viewed in society. So the family name just means stock name. That's what you look it up. It'll say family, it'll say stock. They're talking about legal stock. You're as part of the gross national product of what is made by that particular country that, of course, you may be under with a legal surname. So in constitutional exemption, because we have to remember that you were subsumed by your participation into the system. That's what they define the word all, when someone is subsumed into the collective. And that's really what you were as an individual. It's an individual subsumed in. Someone who was not a member of the legal surname civil system family, and then they got kind of sucked into it by inducement and undue influence and error. So constitutional exemption, defined in the previous law dictionary that I had, because the current one sanitized it out, so I'm reading out of this one. It says a device which enables the court to uphold a law that is valid in most of its application. The court does this by creating an exemption, declaring the law unconstitutional and invalid in their application to specific individuals or groups. Well, we know that a child can never be entered into a legal contract of citizenship. So right off from the start, if we took a look at the statement of birth record, the birth record basically would show that you're constitutionally exempt because you're not part of the legal world, because you couldn't have been, because you couldn't have entered in and consented to take on the burden or the debt of a civil system and become a member known with a legal surname. Remember, that's after acquired legal property, has nothing to do with you. It is artificial, it's in the fiction, and this is what this is about. So the constitutor of this, basically, or whoever put this together, is basically framing you in by implication. It's an insinuation that you're going to be part of this. But they just wait and stay out of the frame. And then they wait till basically you take on the use of the certificate, which now relates to you being, you're objecting to the fact that even in their world, you don't have the right to that title. You're willing to trespass on it based on paying royalties to the royals by fine and fee, which is part of the feudal system, for trespassing on a family name that's not yours. But you're using it in title even though it's not truthful. So we have to see what's going on here. You're violating God right from the beginning. You shouldn't be involved with them. Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Be ye separate, which means private, not public. How many things can we go on? Do not touch the unclean thing. Surnames reflected a gentilitious title of the nations, which said you were unclean. You were part of those who did not have a covenant with God. And in symbolization, you were uncircumcised of the heart, not of the flesh. But they're keeping a surname on there because of Gentiles were considered uncircumcised. So therefore, you basically still are carrying a legal foreskin film name over your eyes because you can't see. So therefore, how do we get this across to people? You got to do your due diligence. Even the early Bereans in the Bible were taking the time to research the scriptures daily. you need to do that too. And you need to see what's going on. If you're operating the legal, wouldn't it be important to find out how the legal system operates, to realize how you're judged or deemed to be in it? How could you be charged if you were yourself? You don't need a license to be you, but you certainly need a license to impersonate and pretend to be the legal person of another.